Techniques for improving reading efficiency. So let's look at some of them. Active reading, making reading a habit and actively reading, okay, even at work. Morning the newspaper, at work some knowledge levels as far as the company's products, policy details, technical details, and of course there are other official documents which you will have to read day in and day out. Evening again, making it a habit to read a storybook makes the reading habit a very active one. Selection of appropriate reading type. We may want to do critical reading, we may want to do a skimming kind of reading, depends on the situation. So that selection is important. If a storybook is read, at a careful reading pace, it certainly is not justified. It should be read at a fast pace. Setting realistic time schedules. So if we decide that we want to complete a chapter in an hour, that also puts a pressure on us and the concentration becomes a little higher, the interest levels also change. In that case, you'll be able to achieve the objective. Concentration on content and speed. Whenever you're reading a document or a book, focus on the content and keep track of the speed, because there will always be a lot of other frivolous things along with the content which we can skim through fast, and focus on the content. Keep eyes moving. When you know your eyes are not moving, you're not concentrating, so be conscious about it. Quick and silent reading. Quick and silent reading, if we read aloud, since our other parts of the body are involved, it tends to slow down the reading. It's fast. You can read faster when you're reading silently. Preview and review of material. If we have a preview and review of material, it's easier to comprehend when we are doing the actual reading. Read in logical block or words. There's a natural, logical understanding that will happen as we read, and hence make your reading also in that style. Read just enough to capture thoughts. You really don't have to spend too much time. Just get the content and comprehend fast. That's enough. And keep it logical. So hence concentration, again, it keeps on coming as one very important factor. Improvement of capability to understand symbols. So if there are symbolic representations and you want to also have a symbolic understanding of the thought process, understanding of that will help a lot. Underline and take notes randomly. Whenever there are important points and we want to focus on those, underline, and the notes will help in further reading. Instead of reading through the entire document, the notes would be good enough for me to go back. Control on personal and environmental factors. Control on personal, because we tend to waver. Our mind keeps wavering here and there. We have to get ourselves to the actual content as far as the reading is concerned. And as far as environmental factors, you could have phone rings, you could have others coming in disturbing you. Okay, those are things which are avoidable. So if one has seen in a library atmosphere, it's peaceful, well lit, peaceful, spacious, nice ambience as far as sitting and reading, and even the ergonomics works fine there. Hence we are able to concentrate and read a lot. So those things, if brought in an environment either in the office or at home when we are reading, can work wonders as far as reading skills are concerned. Techniques for improving retention, because the whole objective of effective reading is retaining what we have read. So let's look at some of them. Using memory aids. We can say that a particular answer to a question has 10 points. So if we remember the point has 10 and then recall those 10 points, it's easy for us to remember. So these are memory aids. Similarly, acronyms. For example, the SWOT. SWOT means strength, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. So we need not remember it separately as words, but SWOT itself will tell us what it is. So we could use our own techniques to help us retain what we have learned in our memory. Deciding priorities of retention. We may read a lot of material, but we must decide what we want to retain for us to come to a proper understanding of what we are reading. Thinking. Now, whatever we want to retain, we must do a processing as far as thinking is concerned, so that the whole thing falls in sequence and we don't forget, connecting it to events and so on. Reinforcing. Whatever I have read, put it in sequence in my memory, I reinforce by going through it mentally myself. Ensuring determination. I must remember, I must recall when the time comes. Talking to yourself and giving yourself the confidence and determination that you will, retain and recall whatever you have read helps us always. I think all of us have gone through this as students. Some guidelines for effective reading. Define the purpose. If my purpose is examination, and if I have to recall the contents that I am reading, then my reading should be such that I can recall when the time comes, and hence retention is critical there. Clarity about environment. The environment that I am going to be doing the reading is important. Already we spoke about the library, which gives us a very conducive environment for doing active reading. Identify reading channel. Am I going to do an e-book reading, or is it going to be a written book reading? Control interference. As much as possible, try not to get disturbed, either through cell phones or through friends or through other means. Sometimes when people are doing serious reading, they shut themselves off into a room so that there is no disturbance whatsoever, because their thought process should not be disturbed. Getting the reading of words and non-verbal symbols, connecting them up, because it helps you to remember much higher when you have the non-verbal and the word symbols together. Evaluate critically. Whatever you're reading, see if skimming is required or serious reading is required, critical reading is required. What will I do for that portion of the book? Will I go through it quickly? Am I going to concentrate a lot on that portion? That depends on what the purpose of reading is. You have a material on executive reading and some tips which you can look at in your course material. So this session we looked at reading skills, and as we all know, reading gives us the knowledge, which is the most powerful tool as far as communication is concerned. Thank you.